Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called It Was Only a Mining Drill, written by FarmWitch4275. We entered the star system, a few ships at most, nowhere near our normal strength. We were fully covert, trying to remain quiet, and every ship was running silent. This was a stealth raid, trying to secure the remains of a human warship for study. The species had been in the galactic consciousness for only a few years now, at least in their timescale, and had confounded the galaxy. We wanted to know why. We scanned the system, and instantly we noticed our intel was wrong. It was one small mining ship and one small station orbiting a barren moon. That was it. It was the size of a frigate, small, but clearly just an unarmed mining vessel. We moved to give it a more detailed scan, and my engineers were practically salivating at the sight of the thing. I tried to wonder why. It looked more than just a bit primitive. It was a long, thin, rectangular, cuboid shape, with rockets' engines in the back. Heavy-duty mining drills with an odd blue glow to them, and a single glass cockpit. I had never seen them before. Odd circular things with three heads with large grinding teeth that spun around the center rotating directions all at once. My engineers took a look at the readouts and were salivating at the sight of it. Some even bashing their heads against their console, crying, "Why didn't we think of that?" Or a similar facsimile thereof. I wondered why they got so jubilant at the sight, and got my chance to see why. It headed towards a large iron-rich asteroid and stopped near its surface. It gingerly pressed its four large drill heads against the rock, and like a knife through water, the rock began to disintegrate into small tiny particles of mineral-rich dust. The engineers were beside themselves with happiness as they watched it work its magic, the drills themselves having large tubes in the middle just behind the drills, pumping the rock dust through pipes to two large cargo containers placed in the rear. Just in front of the engines, he chewed through the massive rock and disappeared inside it like a worm in a fruit. We sat in silence, running what few scans we could. It was swirling around inside the asteroid, digging it out and hollowing it out. Then it popped out of the rock on the other side, slower, heavier. Again, the engineers nearly wet themselves as they scanned away. Finally, I had enough of all this cooing and asked why. The engineers told me that due to low gravity from our homeworld, it was easier just to use lasers, or, in the case of our primitive ancestors, stone saws, and cutting blocks to just cut out small blocks of solid material from a surface or mineral-rich deposit, then carry the whole thing to the refinery or smelter. These humans, coming from a high-gravity world, didn't have that luxury and so had to crush or destroy rocks, transporting them elsewhere for processing. Only this was a lot more impressive, a lot more advanced. They were taking riskier scans, but were able to tell me that the ship had its own sorting and refining system, at least to an extent, built into its hull. The pipes and sensors were making sure of that, because it was fine particulate dust. A hidden filtration mechanism sorted through it all, and one cargo container contained ejected waste dust from the rock, and the other had only pure iron-rich dust. Now I understood why these things were making our engineers salivate like they were staring at a prime rib platter. It turned to face the asteroid and released some kind of small device that slipped into the hole it just made. A gravity bomb of some kind, as we quickly discovered, as the asteroid shattered into pieces and then shrank into a hard ball a tenth of its previous size. The ship moved forward, and its drills reduced what little remained of the rock into the cargo bays. The engineers resumed their salivating as they scanned it. It returned to the station, and powerful pump mechanism of some kind filled the cargo containers full of water of some kind. An odd mechanism inside, like the clothes machine or other such mechanism, washed the ore of impurities and deposited it all into storage. The material, now easier to move thanks to the mixed liquid, pumped into parts of the station through pipes and conveyors, and then into refineries or small, contained smelters. Here, it was slowly but precisely processed into metal ingots. The ingots themselves were compressed by further mechanisms, refining into steel or simply sent out to be placed on pallets for shipping or use. Finally, as the drilling machine returned to the next asteroid, something happened to the station. A mechanism like a gigantic claw appeared out of one side, deploying like arms at a dry dock. 1,000 strange flexible mechanical appendages appeared out of the station's larger hangar, and piece by piece, component by component, an entire ship, a cruiser-class ship, materialized in front of us, component by component. From the back to front, we all sat amazed as the ship, twice the size of the mining vessel, suddenly appeared in front of us. It was like a hypnotic dream watching this unfold. Thousands of odd appendages, each one having a different end, working in perfect concerted union to grab the component, then hold it down while another appendage used its different tool to screw in a bolt or weld a plate. The process continued as piece by precious piece, each part was put in place, from the tip of the engine nozzles to the front end of the glass bridge. It looked fancy too. Curved edges, circular patterns, and rounded edges. Then, once it appeared as though they were complete, a completely different set of mechanical arms deployed, with the two large ones grabbing the ship to hold it in place. In a mesmerizing pattern of rainbow, the shiny coating of red, white, and pink paint was carefully put on the hull. Engineers scanning it could see an army of small drones and machines moving parts and furniture around the interior, bolting them down. Then, something entirely unexpected. Once the ship was painted and fueled, the construction appendages were deployed again. An entire section of the ship again dismantled component by component, cleaned of paint, and returned to the storage. It was as if the mechanical monsters had baked a cake, then cut a chunk out of it. This chunk was then replaced by something else, a similar chunk of the ship that was constructed, only this one bearing a powerful cannon, presumably the shipboard beam laser of some kind. A quick repaint later, and the ship's engine suddenly roared to life, cleared the dry dock, then just like that, and jumped out of the system. Moments later, the process began to repeat itself as a small mining frigate returned for its 10th trip. My engineers were beside themselves, unable to comprehend that this one lone human with its automated systems was able to do its space of around 2 hours, while our stations, full of thousands of people, take 6 months to do. And all of this done with advanced machinery, of course. But that not included, still done by only one man, still impressive. Our demonstration was cut short by the sudden arrival of a Humanity warship. Strange, elongated things with heavy main weapon and odd-shaped hulls. We were expecting some attacks in the human space, which is why we used the cloaked ship, after all. But nothing, absolutely nothing prepared us for what happened next. The small mining frigate turned its gaze and charged at the newcomer. And as the Humanity ship captain spat out his speech, they realized too late this tiny ship was on a collision course. We wondered what it could do to the much larger, more powerful warship. We almost laughed at the act of defiance. Almost. Until those drills hit the hull. They carved through the Humanity ship meter-thick hull like a knife through butter. We could hear the intercepted transmissions of panic and shock as the small drill quickly chewed through the hull material, leaving a gaping hole in the hull out of which hundreds of bodies of dead crew members spilled. As quickly as it went in, it casually popped out the other side, then swooped in for another strike. The ship had been effectively gutted like a parasite had eaten a corpse, and it could do nothing as the mining ship quickly swooped in, aiming its drills to the much larger ship's bridge near the front. We recorded in crisp detail and sound quality the last desperate screams of the ship captain and its crew as they were either ground to a pulp by the drills or thrown into space by the hole. The ship then drilled its way through the reactor, dropped one of its gravity bombs into the ship's engine room, then quickly shot back out to the front backwards. The explosion was more than just a little impressive, as the Humanity ship shattered into 3 distinct pieces. When radio screaming stopped and SOS calls for escape vessels went out of range, the drill ship fired a harpoon out of sorts, digging long flexible cabling into the larger pieces of wreckage. The drill ship dragged the scrapped wreckage, and we watched in amazement as multiple of the appendages systematically ripped the wreck apart, precisely digging out important components and equipment. Each part, likely things the humans wanted to disassemble for reverse engineering, was immediately put on pallets and set on an open deck. 4 large chunks were quickly towed, dismantled, and set for shipping within an hour of engagement. A warship of the Humanity, a ship that was feared in the galaxy, was just taken down and disappeared from reality by one dude in a mining rig. Within moments of the last chunk of the wreckage being dismantled, the station started to work again. To our surprise, an entirely new ship was quickly assembled, fueled, and all of its components and captured parts loaded onto it, then presumably spaced out of the star system. The mining rig returned to its normal operations, and another asteroid was quickly removed from the area. I stopped to think for a bit. Okay, gentlemen, I would like us all to think for a moment. Think, consider all that has transpired here before us, I said, and let my men think. I let a few minutes pass and then spoke again. We just saw a mining rig, a rock-chewing machine, turn a large starship that is one of the galaxy's many terrors into a pile of slag and parts. Now the humans will shortly have Humanity Feck as well. Consider humanity and their now, albeit short-lived, but well-catalogued reputation for acquiring technology from those who attacked them, I said, and allowed my men to think about it a bit more. Just as the mining rig finished another asteroid, one of my engineers squealed in terror as it turned, aiming its huge starship-chewing mandibles at us. It remained there for a few moments, then began to approach, quickly getting within striking distance, barely out of range of our ship's lasers. It would also appear that, with this kind of tech, humans can effectively mass-produce entire fleets of warships in a 20th of the time, maybe less than we do. And one single human with a drill can basically build an entire fleet by himself. Judging by their automation technology, it is likely they don't even need crew for some ships. Think about that for a moment, I said. Once again, a few minutes passed by and the drill ship sat there, patiently waiting for something to happen. Staring at us. Now consider for a moment all I have just said. Does anybody else think that pissing these humans off would be a bad idea? I asked. Aye, sir, came the resounding yell from the crew in response. We are all agreed. Sergeant, hail the human ship. Let's apologize for our intrusion and politely beg him to allow us to leave, I asked. We hailed, and within moments we had a video feed. It sort of looked human, but it was covered in cybernetics and machinery. Were these humans also insane that they changed their bodies so much? This level of cybernetic augmentation was unheard of, almost blasphemous in the galaxy. What do you want? He said. The biomechanical voice threw me off, and its appearance startled me a bit. I have no idea why I said the thing I said after this, but I guess I was so surprised that I just blurted it out. Pardon me, sorry for the intrusion. May we please come in and have a chat over lunch? I said. The crew all looked at me, and I suddenly realized what I said. I slapped my own face in embarrassment. But, what I mean to say was, yeah, sure, come on through. Just make sure you don't get caught by the wee beasties. They don't care what they find. If it ain't registered, it gets torn apart. See you in a few, he said, and disappeared. The mining rig turned around and docked itself onto the station, waiting for us. Wait, what? Pilot, go, I suppose, I said, still unable to comprehend what the hell just happened. That's it. Just to the right side. Left side equals death, right side equals not death. The maglocks will secure you to the dock, he said through the radio. Might I ask why you allowed this? This is, most unusual, I said, shuddering from the impact of the ship docking to the station. Well, you did ask politely. One of the very few that did. Normally it's just power-hungry blowhards. It's so refreshing to finally see some actual civilized people in the galaxy, as opposed to the bloviating barbarians we usually find. Always happy to see something with actual intelligence instead of just another big wang to swing around. Anyway, you're in luck. It's Meatloaf Monday, and you're in for a treat. Come on in. Let's hope you breathe oxygen, he replied. I sat there for a few moments and wondered what to do. Eventually, I gave up and yelled, "Lunchtime," to the crew, and headed to meet the human. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.